Executive Director of Network for the Advancement of People with Visible Disabilities, and I'm also the Director of Citizens Mediation Center in Edo State Ministry of Justice. I am a disability rights advocate, and I have over 25 years experience in the field of putting in the front burner issues that have to do with people with disabilities all over. Our mission is to advocate for the rights of persons with disabilities and ensure their social inclusion in governance and development initiatives in Nigeria. Ultimately, we seek for a society with equal opportunities for persons with disabilities, a society without discrimination. And one way to do that is to advocate for their rights and guarantee their social inclusion in development and in governance. Recently, I completed an assignment given by one of the bodies I belong to, which is the Association of Lawyers with Disabilities in Nigeria, ALDIN. On the 23rd of May, they had their National Management Board election. By the Constitution of ALDIN, election is done every 3 years to elect a new management board. And this year, I was saddled with the responsibility of conducting that election. It came at a time where the association was near crisis situation, with the former management board's tenure having elapsed, and there were contending interests, people who want to come into the association and who feel that the ground should be plain enough for them to contest. And I was, again, like I said, given that responsibility as the chairman of the ALDIN electoral body to conduct the election alongside two other of my colleagues. I gave a promise, a solemn promise, that I was going to conduct an election that is credible, inclusive, transparent, and above all, that will be litigation-free. And I went into that task, rallied my colleagues on the committee, and we were able to deploy a platform where all voters, irrespective of their disability type, were able to use the platform seamlessly. We test run the platform a day to the election, just for the members to be conversant with it and to know how elections will go. But to summarize on that, is just to say that on the 23rd of May 2026, that election was conducted. We had 96% participation of those who were cleared to participate in the process. 96% participated and voted for candidates of their choice, from the president, vice president, secretary, to other elected positions. First, it's to the credit of the committee and what we did, that even while the process was on, some persons were already expressing satisfaction to the platform that was deployed and how the process looked transparent enough. They could monitor real time how voting was going. And at the end of the election, when the result was declared, what we saw was that those who lost were the first to comment. And what was their comment? Congratulating those who are committing themselves to cooperating with those who won and for the greater good of ALDIN. That personally was very satisfactory. The second gratifying thing that happened was that the comments made by members, those that lost, even commending the process that was deployed, appreciating what myself as the chairman of the committee and the other two electoral committee members that worked alongside with me, what we did. When people are confident about the process, they are ready to accept the outcome. And that's what I saw with the ALDIN election. Yes, the natural pain of having contested, you didn't win, was there for those who lost. But they were satisfied that the process was transparent enough and they couldn't have expected otherwise. So it wasn't a problem of process. Everybody accepted it, congratulated those that won, congratulated the electoral committee. We may say it's small, but Nigerian Bar Association is about to organize another election come the 20th of July this year for the National Executive Council. Just to note that we've been saying it since the NBA, Nigerian Bar Association, started the online voting system where all lawyers can participate. Once you are registered, you've paid your annual practicing, your bar practicing fee for the year. You are automatically qualified to participate in the election if it is an election here. But we've seen such outcome challenged in court. But whereas there were indications that ALDIN members, if not satisfied with the process, would do same, but became satisfied with the outcome, so much so that they have to congratulate their opponent, and there's nothing about challenging the process. It's not the first time I'm really doing this. I really have been committed to having an electoral system that is transparent, credible, and above all, that is inclusive, where persons with disabilities are able to participate in the elections at whatever level. And the executives that were elected on 23rd of May were given their certificates of return on the 25th of May. They were sworn in and they've actually assumed office there presently. So coming to the Braille Ballot guide, I would always remark any election that is not inclusive cannot be said to be conclusive. Let it be transparent, let it be credible, but once you leave out a chunk of the population, Nigerians with disability, where they cannot participate in the process, you can't truly say that election was conclusive. And I was part of a campaign in 2016. We call it Access Nigeria Disability Vote Matter campaign. The campaign basically sought to increase the participation of persons with disabilities in voting, and the right to vote when they want to carry out their civic responsibility as provided for by the Constitution. They should be able to participate in that process. And that campaign or consortium was conveyed by Grace Jerry of the Inclusive Friends Association and NAVID, Network for the Advancement of People with Visible Disabilities, and other organizations of persons with disabilities, civil society, will form part of that consortium. We engage INEC, the National Assembly, very extensively. And the process, the period between 2016 and 2020-2021, to deepen electoral participation of persons with disabilities across the different clusters of persons with disability. What was done first was to do a disability audit, a disability electoral audit to do an audit of our electoral process, to find out how participatory it was for persons with disability who are willing and ready to participate in the process. This started in Edo State in the 2016 election, and after that audit, accessibility audit of our electoral process, was also done in Ondo. The findings of that report, of that research, showed that about 75% disenfranchisement was identified. That report was presented to the chairman of the Electoral Commission at a ceremony in Abuja on the 25th of October 2017. And we got commitment from INEC and from the then chairman, Yakubu Mahmoud, that they will work with the consumption to turn the table around and to deepen the participation of persons with disabilities. And so the process started. The first thing that was done was infographics was designed to help deaf participation in the election, because of course we know that it wasn't possible to deploy sign language interpreters to all the non-polling units. Even if INEC had the resources to so do, we also do not have that required manpower of sign language interpreters that will man polling units or so that we have in the country. And so the consultant came up with infographics, which INEC accepted, that we explain the step-by-step process of participation. Because when you get to the polling unit on election day, the presiding officer starts by explaining to voters who are there at that point what the process was going to look like. A hearing impaired person that is there will not hear anything. So there's infographics that needed to be pasted on every polling unit, on the wall of any polling unit. Like a deaf person, you can read, and you can also see it explained through graphics, right? That was deployed in the 2018 Ekiti election and subsequently deployed nationally. Where I came in was the convener of the consortium, the Access Nigeria Disability Vote Matter campaign, executive director of the Inclusive Friends Association. Grace Jerry called me that INEC is asking for a system where the blind can also vote. Haven't done that of the deaf. Of course, for persons with albinism, it was magnified glasses that was introduced. Okay. So I was asked to produce something that the blind can use, and I asked, why not? I told her, why not let's give it to others. I mentioned a Dan Lamy, for instance, of blessed memory there. He was the CEO of Anglo-West African Association for the Blind in Lagos, ANWAB. I was on the United Nations Committee on Persons with Disabilities representing Nigeria. So perhaps his vast knowledge and experience, having traveled to several countries, can bring to us what works in those systems, and let us see how we can also domesticate it or modify it for our use if need be. But she said no, she wanted me to do that drive. And I went out, I started thinking and said, it wasn't just to have the blind participate in the system. I needed a system where after you have voted, no one could tell. We don't want the visually impaired to have problem. And also we do not want, in an attempt to solve a problem, you now create another problem. I needed a system where you come vote, and when you leave, nobody can distinguish the ballot paper that this was the person that used this ballot paper, except if subjected to a forensic analysis and all that. And that was what I thought of. And so I told them that I wanted access to the ballot paper, where the blind and visually impaired persons can have access to the ballot paper. So I have to design a system that will guarantee access to the use of the ballot paper. That's how I came about the Braille Ballot guide. And it's designed in a jacketed form, where the ballot is inserted into the jacket. On the jacket, depending so we worked closely with INEC. They give us, or if in the general election, for instance, in the 2019 general election, for instance, we had about 73 or 78 political parties participate. It was a very long ballot paper. We also will design that jacket that will fit in. The ballot paper is inserted into the jacket. And where you have names of the parties on the ballot, it is brailled on the jacket. Where you have the spot where you thumbprint, which is always in front of the political party, there is an opening, it's perforated, it's opened. And so on the opening, you just have, if you have access to the ballot. The jacket is perforated on the place where you thumbprint. You just have access to the ballot. So as a blind person, they give, when you get to the polling unit, the presiding officer inserts the ballot into the jacket, hands it over to you. When you get to the cubicle where you are voting, you trace the party. You are not depending on the person that followed you there in case you didn't go there on your own. You trace the party. You are confident that this is the party you are voting for. You put your hand on the ink, and through the opening, you insert directly on the ballot. When you remove the ballot from the jacket, nobody can tell who used that was the blind person. It's like every other person voting. So that gave us access. And that was the process, the system I designed for the Independent National Electoral Commission. Amina Zachary, she's retired, and haven't done a tenure as a commissioner in INEC. She saw it and was so pleased with it, and said even the former INEC boss, Atahiru Jega, wanted to bring a Braille Ballot. Wanted a system where the blind can vote, but nobody could come up with what works, and that she is confident that this would work. But before it can be deployed in the national election, which was barely months away, that it first should be deployed in Osun. Osun election was 18th of September 2018. So came back to Edo State from Abuja and went to town. And at the time the ballot was ready, they gave us the prototype of the ballot. It may not containing the political parties, and we used that to design the Braille Ballot. And when we went to Osun, we sensitized the visually impaired blind persons there on how to, and they were so excited. And on the day of election, they used it. In 2019, INEC deployed it, they used it. And since then, it's in the INEC kitting, always a material to be deployed at elections. We have had 2019, 2023 general election, 2027 election. It's been used in several obstacles elections, and INEC has accepted it. It's part of the checklist of materials that is deployed on election day. So we suggested to INEC and to the National Assembly cut up windows where all matters relating to litigation as to who is participating, political party that is participating or not, should have a cut-off time, not earlier than 72 or a week, 7 days to the election, so that every logistical thing that needed to be taken care of will be taken care of. But of course, we've engaged INEC severally after that, up to 2021. We even now have to do a data gathering for INEC just to aid deployment. Voters who are registered persons with disabilities. We did a data gathering from there across several states of the Federation. The first exercise was done across 13 states to say you want to conduct election, these are where persons with disability and their type of disability, ensure that these materials are deployed. The last Edo election, before the election, INEC brought a sample of the Braille Ballot guide that they were going to deploy and all that. It looks good, but we've often seen that sometimes deployment is the problem. You get to certain stations where persons with disabilities are participating, you do not have the Braille Ballot guide. Or even where it's there, the ad hoc officials or even the INEC personnel are not adequately sensitized as to what the Braille Ballot guide. So you can get it, they don't even know, even if it's in there with them, they don't even know what it is. But what we have seen at other occasions is that it is not deployed at all. And blind or visually impaired voters will still have to depend on a third party. We defeat the idea. Our election by the Constitution is secret balloting. And so INEC should increase the participation of persons with disability by deploying these assistive materials to help them to vote. Yes, so that's it. I designed that the Braille Ballot guide that INEC is using today. And at a point, I thought I should have a patent right to it and applied to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, paid the required fee to be given a patent right to the Braille Ballot guide. But I was told that since INEC has already deployed it, I couldn't patent it, I couldn't customize it anymore. If that was done before it was put to use, that would have been possible. But no recognition is given. I'm not known when the story is told. And so INEC should actually be asked how they came about the Braille Ballot guide. Of course, we did it for INEC. We are not holding any claim, but there should be proper documentation. People who did what should be so recognized for what they have done. It will encourage others to work. Sometimes it's not about what you get. It's just your willingness to contribute to building an inclusive system. I'm in the business of building inclusive systems, and so I would encourage INEC to be able to tell the story properly. Recognize not just Melody Omosah, who designed the Braille Ballot guide. Grace Jerry has done a lot for inclusive elections, and others who have so done. Recognize us for what we have done, so that we'll be encouraged and other Nigerians will be encouraged. Lastly, on the Braille Ballot guide, it is not only for the visually impaired and blind voters to use. People who have dexterity issues with their hand, you see that when people vote, sometimes votes are declared invalid because they are not sure of which political party you voted for when the ink smears from one party across to another party. If you can't determine who this person voted for because the ink has smeared to another, across the line, such ballot is declared invalid. But with the use of the Braille Ballot guide, if you have dexterity issues, if you are old, you may not be clinically blind, but you are not too sure you are old, you can put the ballot into the jacket, ask that it be put into you. If there's sensitization, we have parties who are contesting now. And so if you sensitize the voters that, you know what, we have 20 political parties. My party is going to be number 5 or it's going to be number 10 and all that. You just put the ballot into the jacket, you trace and count. On the 10th, you'll be sure that this is the party you are voting for. You put your hand on the ink and you are able to vote. And that way your vote will not be wasted. It will go for the candidate and party that you have voted for. And it is helping the blind voters and those with visual impairments to independently, in compliance with the Constitution and the Electoral Act, exercise their franchise for candidates and political parties of choice. It is called a Braille Ballot guide to guide your use of the ballot paper.